So I have the summary, of how to win friends and influence people, by Dale Carnegie. Introduction here, the timeless art of influence, right? So Dale Carnegie is, how to win friends and influence people is widely regarded as one of the most, influential self-improvement books, ever written, published in 1936. Right, so the book has shaped countless leaders, entrepreneurs and communicators through its principles of empathy, persuasion and human connection. So Carnegie believed that success hinges not on intelligence alone, but no one's ability to build a strong relationship. So this summary will unpack the book's core strategies, linking them to cognitive psychology, motivation theories and real world application, right? So part 1, the fundamental techniques in handling people. Carnegie lays the foundation for influencing others effectively. He emphasizes understanding human nature and appealing people's deepest desire. Don't criticize, condemn or complain. Criticism is here counterproductive. It provokes defensiveness rather than inspiring change, right? So instead approach disagreements with understanding to foster cooperation, right? So Carnegie here cites Abraham Lincoln's approach. Rather than condemning mistakes outright, Lincoln mastered the art of diplomacy, right? So here give honest and sincere appreciation, right? So people crave cognitions and appreciation more than matter of rewards, right? So here acknowledging even small efforts can spark motivation. Carnegie warns here against insincere flattery. Genuine appreciation build trust, right? So arouse in other person and ego want, right? So people respond best when they see value in an action. Instead of commanding, show how a suggestion benefits them. The principles ties into motivational psychology. Self-interest is a driving force in human behavior. Part 2 is 6 ways, to make people like you. Carnegie, identifies, universal behaviors that foster genuine human connections. Become genuinely interested in other people. Focus on learning about people's passion, dreams and struggles. Engage with empathy. People value those who listen intently. Smile. A simple smile can change interactions. Psychological studies confirm its impact. Smiling makes us appear more approachable, and obviously competent and obviously trustworthy, right? So remember people's name here. Carnegie notes that a person's name is the sweetest sound to them. Remembering name fosters personal connection and respect. Be a good listener. The best communicators listen more than they speak. Active listening validates others, create positive rapport. Talk in terms of the other person's interests, right? Find common ground and steer conversations towards topics they care about. The principle of personal relevance boosts engagement. Make others feel important and do it sincerely. Genuine validation and respect strengthen relationships, right? As a leader who uplifts other earns lasting loyalty. So part 3 is how to win people to your way of thinking. So influencing other requires persuasion without manipulation. Carnegie outlines here strategies for winning people's over ethically. The only way to influence people is talk about what they want instead of pushing arguments align with their desires. Think from their perspective what benefits them. How respect others' opinions, even if you disagree, respect their stance. Carnegie advocates the here Socrative method, asking thoughtful questions rather than debating outright. So admit when you are wrong. Humility, that strengthens credibility. Owning mistakes fosters trust and diffuses conflict. Begin in a friendly manner, in a friendly way, right? Begin in a friendly way. Approach discussions with warmth and openness. Hostility kills persuasion. People respond better to kindness. Appeal to novel motives, right? Frame ideas in way that align with positive intentions. Example here, instead of demanding action, inspire others through shared values, right? Part 4 is how to change people without offending them. So here Carnegie provides strategies for constructive criticisms without harming relationships. Begin with praise and honesty appreciation, right? So start with acknowledgement of strengths before here discussing area of improvement. Encouragement fosters growth more than criticisms. Call action to mistakes indirectly. Reframe mistakes as learning opportunities. Example here, instead of saying that that was wrong, say here is a better approach. Ask question instead of giving direct orders. People respond better when they feel ownership of a decision. Example here, how you think we can improve this, instead of doing this instead. Do this instead, right? So make the other person feel that the idea is theirs. Influence works best when people here internalized ideas as their own. So use encouragement, make faults easy to correct. Avoid discouragement. Small victories lead to bigger success, right? So psychological insights here, why Carnegie's approach works. So Carnegie's method aligned with modern psychology and behavioral science. So intrinsic motivation here, Daniel Pink's drive encouragement fosters self-driven improvement. Cognitive biases here, thinking fast and slow by Daniel Kahneman. Right, so people resist direct corrections but respond to nudges. Habit formation here, the power of habit by Charles Duhigg. Reframing behaviors make change feel effortless. So conclusion is here, the lasting impact of Carnegie's teaching that Dale Carnegie's principles transcend time because they tap into universal human nature, right? So his book is more than a guide, it's a blueprint for meaningful relationships. The secret here, empathy, sincerity and ethical persuasion. Mastering these skills is just not about winning friends. It's about becoming a person others trust, respect and obviously admire. So how do Carnegie's ideas compare to modern communication strategies? So Dale Carnegie's principles remain highly relevant in today's communication landscape, but they have evolved to fit digital interactions, corporate strategies and psychological insights for modern research. First point is timeless foundations versus digital adaptation. So Carnegie's core ideas here, empathy, appreciation, persuasion through understanding, are still here central to effective communication. However, modern strategies incorporate digital etiquette, online engagement and here data driven personalization. His book has been adapted into how to win friends and influence people in the digital age, which applies his teachings to social media, email and virtual interaction. Second point is here, active listening versus instant communication. So here Carney emphasized active listening as a key to building relationships, right? So today here communication is often fast paced and fragmented, right, through text, emails and social media. While listening remains crucial, modern strategies also focus on concise messaging, emotional intelligence in digital spaces and they are managing online tone. So here third point is persuasion versus data driven influence. So Carney taught that the best way influence other is to talk about what they want and show them how to get it. Modern communication strategies that this further with behavioral analytics, targeting messaging and here AI driven personalizations. Businesses now use customers insights and engagement here metrics to tailor interaction. Encouragement versus psychological framing. So here Carnegie advocated praise and encouragement to inspired change, right? So today communication experts use behavioral psychological techniques like framing, nudging and cognitive biases awareness to shape responses, right? So for example here positive reinforcement in leadership is now backed by neuroscience and motivation theories. Reputation and trust versus brand identity, right? So Carnegie here emphasized giving people a fine reputation to live up to. In modern communication here, this translates into personal branding, a corporate identity, and online reputation management. Social media amplifies this. Trust building now requires transparency, authenticity, and engagement. So conclusion of the point is here, that Carnegie's legacy is modern communication. While Carnegie's principles remain fundamentally sound, today's strategies integrate technology, psychological, and data-driven insights. His emphasis on human connections, emotional intelligence, and ethical persuasion continues to shape leadership, marketing, and interpersonal communication. Right. So the next point is here, Dale Carnegie's 7 powerful rules, for better relationships. Dale Carnegie is known for his practical, no nonsense approach to advice, right? So here, interestingly, a section on here 7th rule for making your home life, happier was included in the original 1938, edition of How to Win Friends and Influence People, but here omitted from the revisions here 1981 editions. I have reproduced it here. So 7 rule for making your home life happier. Don't nag, don't try to make your partner over, don't criticize, give honest appreciation, right? Pay little attention here, be courteous, right? So here, the point is the 7 rules for better relationships, home life edition that we got. So don't nag means what here? Nagging is one of the most common relationships, pitfalls, right? So Carnegie emphasized, that constant complaining on repeated reminders erode goodwill and create resentment. Instead of repetitive criticisms, he suggested patience and understanding. Express concerns calmly and constructively. Framing request positively instead of "you never help around the house." Say, "I appreciate when you help. It makes things easier for both of us." Using encouragement here, people respond better to positive reinforcement than persist complaints. A study in relationships, psychology supports this here. Habitual nagging triggers defensive relationship and the reactions instead of cooperation. Don't try to make your partner over, right? Carnegie warned against here forcing just change upon others. Instead of attempting to reshape a partner's personality, he advised. So acceptance and appreciation, right? Acknowledge strengths instead of focusing on weakness. Leading by example here, inspire positive behaviors by modeling it rather than forcing it. Encouragement over on enforcement here. People involve here gradually through appreciation, not criticisms. Modern relationships here, experts echo this, that growth should be mutual, not forced. So don't criticize. Criticisms here, especially when harsh and frequent damages relationships. Carnegie explained that criticisms wounds self-esteem and lead to defensiveness. People thrive on validations, not condemnation, right? So effective communication avoids blaming language. Example like "you always forget" versus "could we work on reminders together." So psychological studies confirm this. Criticisms actives the brain's defensive response, making people less likely to change behavior. Okay, so next point is 4 here. Give honest appreciation. So appreciation builds trust and positivity, right? So Carney encouraged here acknowledging even small contribution. A simple "thank you" or "I appreciate you" strengthens relationships. So sincerity over flattery. Genuine praise creates lasting impact, right? Consistent positive reinforcement here. Appreciation should be habituate, not occasional. Studied on gratitude in relationships show that couples who frequently expressed here appreciation report higher satisfaction and stronger bonds. Point 5 is here, pay little attention. Small gestures here matter more than here grand displays. Okay, so Carnegie believed that here thoughtful actions foster closeness. A handwritten note, a kind text, or a small act of services makes a huge differences, right? So celebrating small moments, right, from remembering birthdays to acknowledging daily effort. So being attentive, active listening and acknowledging emotions deepen relationships. Research show that small consistent gestures here enhances emotional intimacy far more than sporadic grand gestures. So be courteous, right? Respect and courtesy should never fade, regardless on how long relationship last. Carnegie emphasized. So politeness in speech here, tone and word choice, affect emotional connection. Consideration in actions here, being mindful of needs, space and boundaries. Avoid here complacency. Treat your partner with the same warmth and respect as you would a close friend. So studies confirm that relationship built on mutual respect and politeness lasting longer than those where familiarity breeds neglect. Read a good book on the sexual side of marriage. While somewhat direct here, Carnegie advocated education on emotional and physical intimacy. Believed here understanding personal and partner needs enhances connection. Open communication about intimacy strengthens relationships. Knowledge fosters confidence and deeper bonding. So modern psychology aligns with this. Healthy relationship thrives on emotional and physical understanding. So conclusion, the point is here, the power of Carnegie's relationship rules here. The Carnegie's relationship advice may have been written nearly a century ago, but its principles remain profoundly relevant. His focus on respect, appreciation and thoughtful communication directly aligned with modern relationships psychology, right? So here the next point is that the illusion of predictability, right? The illusion of predictability. Okay, so why human decisions often resemble chance, right? So overconfidence in decision making, how experts despite their experience still make errors. The role of here economists in forecasting, their strengths and limitations in predicting events. The psychological impact of overconfidence, how delusions shape decision making. The future of intelligence and here information processing. Can AI and the internet replace human forecasting? So the illusion here, predictability, in decision making here, one of the biggest challenges, in human cognition is the illusion of predictability. Right? People here believe they can, foresee events, but in reality, many decisions are no better than chance. This issue arises due to several psychological biases, right? So hindsight biases here, that once an event occurs, people retroactively, believe they always knew it would happen. So narrative fallacy here, human construct, casual stories that make randomness feel logical, right? So pattern recognition fallacy here, people tend to see trends where none exist, leading to faulty predictions. So here Kahneman's research in prospect theory reveals that humans often overestimate their ability to predict outcomes, even here when their accuracy is statistically no better than random chance. So overconfidence in decision making, why experts still get it wrong despite decades of experience. Here experts continue to overestimate their accuracy, right? So Kahneman admits here, despite 45 years of work in the field, I am still inclined to make overconfident predictions, right? So this phenomenon here stems from the overconfidence bias. People trust their judgments more than statistical probabilities, I mean to say. So anchoring effect, that here experts often rely on initial estimates even when evidence contradicts them, right? So here confirmation bias, they selectively remember past successes but here ignore errors. Even professional in fields like economics, political science and here business, right, exhibit these biases. Research here shows that the experts are no more accurate at predicting crisis than algorithms or statistical models. So the role of economics in forecasting strengths and limitation here. Economists hold a unique positions among social scientists because they employ mathematical models to explain behaviors, however, right? So the excel at here retrospect retrospective analysis, explaining why things happen. They struggle with prediction, rarely, forcing market crashes or economic downturns. So Kahneman, critics here, this why saying, economists have a mistake among social scientists, because they know mathematics, they are quite good at explaining what has happened after it has happened, but rarely before, right? I mean to say is, Kahneman here critics, this by saying, that economists have a mistake among social scientists, because they know mathematics, they are quite good at explaining what has happened after it happened, but rarely before. So despite their quantitative approach, they fail at predicting randomness, largely because markets are influenced by irrational behaviors, as explored in Thinking Fast and Slow and The Black Swan by Nassim Taleb. Okay, economic models depend on assumptions that are often flawed. Okay, the psychological impact of overconfidence, how delusion shape decisions making, making decisions here, especially in policy making, investment and leaderships are driven by overconfidence. This result is here risk taking beyond reasonable limits, financial bubbles here, policy failures based on faulty assumptions, right, unintended economic consequences, right, public trust eroding when predictions fails. So one of Kahneman's most striking observation is that our errors have consequences. The rest of us pay for decision delusion, right? So here, when leaders make overconfident forecasts, entire economics suffer from poor decisions making. Recognizing human biases is crucial for preventing these failures. So the future of intelligence and information processing, the internet versus human judgment. So as AI and information systems advance, many professionals wonder whether digital intelligence with outperform human forecasters. So Kahneman expresses this sentiment here: I enjoy being active, but I look forward to the day when I can retire to the internet. So this reflects the growing reliance on algorithms for decision making. So AI driven forecasting models here outperform human experts in finance, climate science and healthcare. Here big data reduces subjective biases, offering objective insights. So automated information processing could replace traditional human predictions. However, AI cannot be at fully replicate human intuitions. While machines learning is improving, decision making still requires a contextual intelligence, ethical reasoning and strategical flexibility. So the conclusion of the point is here: the future of decision making and expertise here. Daniel Kahneman's insights overscore the fundamental flaws in human prediction. Overconfidence here, hindsight bias and economics forecasting limitations highlight the need for here first is better awareness of cognitive biases. Second is AI assisted AI assisted decision making to reduce human error, right? A shift from overconfidence judgment to probability based reasoning, right? So as the internet and AI evolve, will human intuitions become obsolete? While data-driven forecasting outperforms gut instinct, human reasoning remains essential, especially when dealing with ethics, leadership, and unpredictable events. Right. So this is all about. So yeah.